a few years ago, my health perspective changed, and it gave me insight into different ways of looking at things. So at the time, we had just had our second child. We had some family health issues that were going on. We were trying to run an office, trying to do all the things at the same time, and it ultimately, I reached a state of burnout. And ultimately, what we're going to talk about today is there are things that are viewed as very, very beneficial, things that everybody should do. There are things that are viewed as everybody should not do these. But that situation changed my perspective. So that's what we're going to dive into. I'm Dr. Jeff Cumro, and over the past 15 years, I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of people, helping them optimize brain function, body function, and then supply the energy to those areas to basically optimize their output. Whatever environment they're placed in. If they're trying to learn, they can learn better. If they're trying to focus better at work, they can focus better. Different things like that. So ultimately, like I said, I reached a state of burnout. I was trying to, work 60 hours a week and go home and do a bunch of stuff there and hang out with the kids and the wife and all of that stuff. And it just, I didn't handle it as well as I should have. It wrecked my sleep. The baby that we had didn't sleep real well. And with that, we didn't sleep real well. And it's difficult to continue to push harder and harder every day. And I always came from the mindset, I grew up on the farm, and ultimately you start when the day starts and you end when the day ends. When the sun goes down, you're done with your work, right? There's no 5 o'clock and then you're done. You do what needs to get done. And so that's kind of the mindset that I've always had on this stuff, is we're going to do what we have to do to get there. But there's a time and place when that just doesn't fit anymore. And I've talked to a couple people with chronic diseases here of late, and they're burning past where they should be burning past. They don't know exactly where their energy's at for the day, and they're going past that point where it's just continuing to build more and more stress. And when we have that stress that's starting to compound, then we lose eventually. We don't have enough energy. If you're constantly in that stress state, we're not making energy as efficiently as we should to get to that next state. At the end of the day, we have to have something left in the tank. And my simple formula for health is: how much energy do you make? How much energy do you expend? What is left at the end of the day? If you're in a negative balance, your health is not going to be there. We have to have a little bit left at the end of the day, because that's what ultimately allows us to do the things that we want to do. If we don't have the energy to do the things that we want and like to do, then it's difficult for us to keep going in that pattern, right? Just mentally, it breaks us down. It's hard to go. And maybe I'm speaking from a little too personal of experience there, but it takes your will sometimes. The headaches, the fatigue, the lack of sleep, the being 100% totally exhausted and not being able to sleep, it's just kind of a cruel punishment on that. And so ultimately, the big thing that I wanted to talk about today is I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I asked if they wear some sort of a sleep tracker. Whether I use a Garmin personally, I like the technology in that. Oura Ring has some very good technology. There are other ones out there that have good technology. Now, some of them don't have as good of technology, and that's the thing that, and we're not going to get too technical on this, but ultimately what you want to have is something that has your HRV, the heart rate variability capabilities in there. Now, on some levels of the Garmin, you can actually see your HRV results. On some you cannot, but it's built in, and in some things it looks like an energy level, it looks like a stress level, different things like that. They use all of this to come up with your energy level throughout the end of the day. So the more stress you're under, the more heart rate invariability you have, which I know is strange. Like, you would think that it would get more variable as you had stress, but ultimately what's happening is we're not as responsive to those things in the environment. And with that, our heart rate variability goes down. And as our heart rate variability goes down, our stress level goes up. So that's ultimately what it uses, is as your stress level increases, your energy level decreases. It takes more out of you, which makes total sense, right? So the conversation that I had is, do you wear something like this to where you can actually track your energy levels and know, like, hey, I'm getting to the point where I just don't have anything left in the tank. Maybe this can wait until tomorrow. Maybe I need to go and take a nap. Maybe, my sleep is terrible and I'm not making progress. And this is a good signal. Like doing blood work is awesome. Like it gives you great information. However, it's not something that you're going to go and do 4 or 5 times every day, right? On this, you could check this any time of the day. And they asked about the EMFs from it. And yes, there are EMFs that are produced from this, especially the ones that are hooked to Wi-Fi, that connect to phone apps, or send you emails, all those different things. I'm not about making you a trained monkey, okay? I don't want you to have all of that capability to where every little alarm and alert is sending right to that, and every time it vibrates, you're looking down to it. That's not a healthy place to be, right? That's not what we're using this for. Smartwatch capability is cool for the health aspects of it. It can be a very, very bad thing if you're turning into a trained monkey, and every time it vibrates, you're looking down to it, right? Those aren't the reasons that we're using this. The EMFs, like I said, are bad for you. Yes, they do knock down your energy to some extent. However, if you're constantly running on empty, does it really matter? That's my question. And this is the discussion I've had with colleagues of mine who I would never wear that because it has EMF. Yeah, there are EMFs that are produced by it. But you know what? I want to look and see how much energy I have left in this day to do the things that I want or need to do. Because if I'm running low on energy, I'm not going to push myself through that because I know what has happened. Does that mean that there are days that I have zero energy and I go and do things anyway? Absolutely. Because sometimes things need to get done. You don't get a day off in parenting. You don't get a day off in some other things. But when we don't have any energy and there's something that can probably wait until tomorrow, maybe it should wait until tomorrow. When there's something that I add in as far as a supplement, how does it change my energy levels? How does it change my sleep levels? I can look at my deep sleep. I can look at my REM sleep. I can look at the amount of time that I was awake in the middle of the night, and I can compare all of those together, and I can get a better picture of how that supplement is working for me. I don't have to wait 3 months for lab work. Am I still going to do the lab work? Probably, but I don't have to wait for that because I have a pretty good idea based off of this. Because my heart rate variability is always there. And as long as it's tracking that heart rate variability, it's given me a good idea of what I have left. Now, this is something that is more evident in people who are absolutely crashed. Their health is not in great shape right now. It's a very, very precarious situation where, they're spending days at a time in bed, or they're spending, multiple thousands of dollars on doctor's visits every month just trying to figure what's going on. Those are the people who are going to benefit more from this. Can the average person benefit from this? Absolutely. Like I said, I still wear mine. It's about 8 years ago that I went through that severe burnout. And like I said, headaches every single day, just absolutely exhausted, just trying to push through and just looking forward to going to sleep and at night not being able to sleep. And it's a cruel place to be. It's not a fun place to be. But I am glad that I went through it because it's helped me understand some of these patients. And there are a lot of people that are like, are they really that bad? Do they really have that much of a problem? Yes, it exists. It does exist. They're not making it up. It's not a fun place to be. And what we've got to do is build that energy. But if we don't have any idea where our energy is, it's hard to ever get ahead on that. So if you are considering it, like I said, look and see, is this the right fit for you? It may be, it may not be. But if we can get a better picture of what your heart rate variability looks like, that's a picture of your stress at all times, something valuable to have. If we can get a picture of your heart rate, something valuable to have. There's a lot of people that are having AFib and different things like that right now. We won't get into the reasons behind that, but there are a lot of people that are experiencing things like that. Things like this can give good information on that. Is it good for checking your sleep and seeing, are you making progress in the changes that you're making? Absolutely. And that's the biggest reason that I have kept this thing. I love the standard analog watch. I'm old school in all of that stuff. I love it. I would prefer to have that on, but this tracks my sleep. And that is one of the most valuable things to me. It's one of the things I am most protective over. And if you don't protect your energy levels, then I hope you don't ever have to go through what I went through. But sometimes when we push too hard for too long, things like that happen. And we've got to do a better job of knowing where we're at. And like I said, I was just raised to just go. Like, you do what has to be done. As long as there's stuff to be done and you have time to do it, you just get it done. But that doesn't always work out when we don't have the energy. So when we have something that we can monitor and say, hey, you know what? I just can't do that today. That's something it's going to be fine if it waits for a day. That's not the end of the world. I'm going to leave it. Being able to make that decision making based off of actual, like, valuable information is powerful. Because if you just have it's just one more thing, I'm going to do it. If you just go off of how you feel, it's a totally different animal. So I hope that this helps you. If you do have any questions, please reach out. As always, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. I know that those are your most valuable resources. I appreciate you spending some of that with me, and I will catch you on next week's video.